MMA Boxing Talk here. I wanted to make a video talking about three specific champs in the UFC. If you notice the thumbnail, I'm going to be talking about Cody Garbrandt, Max Holloway, and Tony Ferguson. All three of the guys are only recently become champions. Of course, Cody Garbrandt, he became champion last December when he defeated Dominic Cruz in a one-sided unanimous decision. Max Holloway, of course, became champion back in June against when he took the belt away from Jose Aldo, finished him in the third round. And Tony Ferguson became the interim champion just 2 weekends ago. Of course, Ferguson is an interim champion, but Ferguson's also done something that no lightweight in UFC history has ever done, and that's win 10 fights in a row. No lightweight has ever done that. As a matter of fact, it's Tony's 10-fight win streak is the seventh longest win streak in UFC history. Only 6 guys have ever had a longer win streak than Tony Ferguson in the UFC. So, I mean, a lot of people are considering Tony as the champ, and I have no problem with that. He's beat all the tough guys except for Khabib, who, on 2 occasions pulled out of the fight against Tony Ferguson. And he lost his opportunity there. Kevin Lee's a formidable opponent. Of course, he really wasn't ready for it, but nevertheless, Tony Ferguson is on a ridiculous streak. He has a great resume, and the fight is with Conor next. I really want fans to push for that and let Dana White know and the UFC know. Tag them in posts or whatever. If you tweet something or if you put something on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, tag Dana White and the UFC. Make sure they know, because I want this fight to happen, and I think everyone really does. The Nate Diaz trilogy is a great fight. I still want to see that fight, but it'll always be there. Even if it's in a year and a half, that fight is still interesting. Whether Conor loses or beats Tony Ferguson, I still want to see the trilogy afterwards. So Tony Ferguson, I know he's only an interim champ, but he is a pound for pound fighter. Finally, he's on the pound for pound list. This should have happened long ago, and he's only going to move up from here. So hopefully that fight happens with Conor, whether it's in December 30th card, or maybe in January, February. I want to see that fight, and I think that's a fight that both guys can win that fight. It's winnable for both guys, because Conor could stop Tony. Tony's hittable, but at the same time, if Conor doesn't stop Tony and Conor starts to fade a little bit, Tony could finish him. Bring him into deep waters and drown him, and I really believe he can do that. Tony's a lot more of a finisher than Nate Diaz is. Tony's just more deadly in all aspects of MMA compared to Nate Diaz. So that's the first champion I wanted to talk about. Now there's 2 other guys, both young guys. That's the thing. Tony Ferguson is 33 years old, so he's no spring chicken. But Garbrandt and Holloway are both young guys. I believe they're both 25, 26 years old. I'm pretty sure. So that's very young. They're just, they're both on long winning streaks. Garbrandt is 11-0 in MMA, 9 finishes. So that's a lot of finishes. And Holloway has a few more losses, but he made his UFC debut. I think he was like 20 years old. He was fighting solid guys right from the get-go. But now he's on an 11-fight win streak. Like I said, he defeated Jose Aldo, took the belt from him. He's got a fight coming up in about a little less than 2 months against Frankie Edgar. That's a massive fight. That was just the fight that everyone knew was just going to happen next. It was just obvious. Frankie, sure, he lost to Jose Aldo, but since then he beat Jeremy Stevens, and he also beat Yair Rodriguez. And in Frankie Edgar, his last 8 fights, he's 7-1. So, and against good competition. Frankie Edgar's never been stopped before. So this is a really good, formidable opponent for Max Holloway, and this is an opportunity for Max Holloway to really solidify himself as one of the greatest featherweights of all time. I mean, if he can get past Frankie, he'll have stopped Aldo, beat Frankie, and would now be on at, if he beats Frankie, he'd be on a 12 fight win streak, which is George St. Pierre's longest win streak is 12 wins in a row. So he would tie George St. Pierre's win streak, um, and beating legends like Frankie and Jose Aldo, and had basically wiped out the division before that. So he would be in the conversation as one of the greatest featherweights of all time. He's only improved. Of course, he fought Conor. I believe it was 4 years ago now. Conor blew out his ACL in that fight. He didn't get the finish over Max Holloway. But Max was getting beat on the feet, with the exchanges on the feet. But Max Holloway was also like 20, 21 years old. He wasn't even a full grown man. Conor was a little bit older. He was probably 24, 25. And I know Conor's improved a lot since then, but I think Max Holloway has improved a lot more. His game has evolved a lot more. I think he's more of a complete, more well-rounded fighter. I love McGregor, but he's more one-dimensional. If his way doesn't work, if his plan B is not, he doesn't really have a plan B, Conor. It's mainly he's got a game plan as much as he can, like he did in the Diaz trilogy, but at the same time, his bread and butter, is his boxing, and if that's not gonna to stop the guy, he's in for a long night, especially against a guy like Tony Ferguson or a guy like Max Holloway today. But the first two rounds, there's nobody better than Conor McGregor. So, but Max Holloway, it's an interesting fight with Frankie Edgar. I really do believe Max Holloway has a legitimate chance of stopping Frankie Edgar, whether it's by TKO or submission. Frankie Edgar's never been stopped. I realize that, but Max Holloway is a ridiculous, pressure-oriented fighter. Throws high volume, great footwork. He's young. He's hungry. He wants to prove to everyone, that he is the man. Frankie's been there. I have a feeling that there's a very good chance that Max Holloway would stop Frankie Edgar in this fight. Um, but at the same time, Frankie can win. I just think it'll be a very. I really don't see how Frankie's going to beat Max Holloway. I don't see him taking Max Holloway down at will. Max Holloway has like an 83% takedown defense. When he fought Ricardo Lamas and Jeremy Stevens, two big, strong featherweights, neither of them got a takedown against Holloway. I think Holloway, the last time he was taken down was like about 3 or 4 years ago, at least three anyway. So, and with his footwork and his distance management, I think it's going to be tough for Frankie to get in close and get that takedown on Max. So, not saying he can't take him down, but I don't think he'll be able to continuously take him down, and control him on the ground. I just don't see that happening. I see it going to be difficult for Frankie to get in close, even though he has good footwork and movement as well. Max is just so smart. He's always a step ahead. His striking is so crisp and fluid. He's just going to be picking him apart. That's just the way I see it. But anyway, that's a very good fight. Can't wait for him. Another guy, Max Holloway, young guy. I've been watching for a long time. I remember the fight against Cub Swanson is the first fight where I was really got behind Max Holloway. I knew he was a young prospect that was great, but at that point I knew, wow, this guy is the real deal. He just destroyed Cub Swanson, I think in the second round, maybe it was the third round, but totally destroyed him. And I've been a huge fan ever since. And it's nice to see fighters has a lot of potential, could be possible champions in the future, and they go out and they eventually, you know, they do it and they get the belt and they become champ. So very exciting stuff. But I truly do believe that Holloway will beat Frankie. Definitely gonna watch a bunch of their fights before I make a prediction video. That's not for another 2 months or so. And the last champ I want to talk about Another guy I'm a big fan of. I've been a fan of his since before the Augusto Mendez fight. But when I was really got excited is when they announced that fight with Thomas Almeida, because I was a fan of Almeida as well. Really sure how that fight was gonna wasn't sure how that fight was gonna play out, and Garbrandt went out there and got a first round TKO, followed by another first round TKO over against Mitsugaki. He stopped him quicker than Dominic Cruz stopped him. So then the fight with Dominic Cruz was set. A lot of people thought TJ Dillashaw deserved that rematch before Cody Garbrandt, and I could really understand why, because I mean that fight with Cruz and Dillashaw was super close. It should have been an immediate rematch. A lot of people thought TJ won. I thought Cruz did enough to win. It was very close, I will say, but I thought he won the first 3 rounds, and that's about it. But Cody Garbrandt, of course, when he beat Dominic Cruz, it was just spectacular fashion. Nobody thought Garbrandt was going to, beat Dominic Cruz in a unanimous decision for 5 rounds. Like, it was either he would win by knockout, maybe wear him down and knock him out, or he would get outclassed. No one thought he would outbox Dominic Cruz, outpoint Dominic Cruz. I mean, Garbrandt was knocking everyone out in the first round. So what he did was just spectacular. I had no idea that was coming, but I had a feeling Garbrandt somehow could win that fight. I just couldn't picture how he could do it. I just had a feeling, a gut feeling basically, that he could get the job done, and he did. So I was so happy about that. But he's got his hands full against TJ Dillashaw. That's like less than 3 weeks away. Cannot wait for that card. But that fight, I think, will be the fight of the night. Both guys, there's a lot of history there. They used to train together. They've sparred together. There's the whole notorious story of that Garbrandt knocked out TJ in sparring. I guess it was a flash knockdown, and TJ had a fight coming up, and he got up and said wanted to, he was angry obviously, and was calling out Garbrandt saying, hit me, let's go, let's continue on." But obviously Cody didn't want to continue fighting. He had a fight coming up, and you don't want to hurt your sparring partner. But obviously TJ's an emotional guy, and so is Garbrandt. But both skilled guys. Like, TJ should be on the pound for pound list. There's no doubt about that. He used to be like number 4 2 years ago or something. When he had the belt, he was really high up there. Solid fighter, very very technical. He's learned a lot. He's been to different camps. You know he's sparred with a lot of different people. Probably more so than Cody Garbrandt, but Cody Garbrandt, he's a tremendous boxer. His boxing is definitely better than TJ's. I think TJ's, kickboxing, of course, is better. Um, Maybe a little more technical, but I think the quickness goes to Garbrandt. I think he's a little more explosive, a little quicker. Obviously, he's got more power in his hands. Um, when it comes to their kicks, I would say they're both very strong, but TJ might mix his kicks with his punches a little bit better than Cody does. They're both tough guys. They can both take a punch. But I do favor Cody, and I'll be watching a lot of their fights. I was just watching TJ's fight against John Lineker, but that's not really a good example because I don't see TJ controlling Cody Garbrandt on the ground. Like, I just don't. Garbrandt's so explosive. We saw his explosiveness in his hips when he fought Dominic Cruz. When Cruz took him down in the first round, couldn't hold him down for a split second, and Garbrandt was already up on his feet. So TJ's not going to be able to hold him down the whole fight like he did against Lineker. It's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be a very tough fight for both guys. Both guys are going to have to take some shots to land some shots. Um, both, like, I just don't see. I don't see Garbrandt fighting like he did against Dominic Cruz and winning. He's not going to be able to win by just strictly outboxing and outpointing TJ Dillashaw. But Dillashaw can't do the same either. Dillashaw won't be able to, win this fight off his back foot and just strictly box Garbrandt. He's got to mix it up. They're going to both have to get into the dirty areas. They're going to have to get in tight, chest to chest, and there'll probably be a lot of clinch work, a lot of grappling as well. I think both guys are going to try to mix it up and shoot for takedowns because, both well-rounded fighters, but you got to mix it up when it gets to this high level. Um, but I do favor Garbrandt just slightly. I think he's got the extra power. He's a great boxer as well. He's very evasive himself. But I do think he's got the power, and I think he's a little bit quicker, just a little bit quicker, and than TJ. And I think that will be enough to win him this fight. But other than that, neither guy really has any holes in their game. It's a huge fight. I really cannot wait for this fight. This is a fight that I was thinking about when they were teammates and never thinking they would actually fight. But when things kind of went south, it was always a fight that when things went south with TJ with Alpha Male and things like that, then the fight, I knew eventually would happen. And obviously it's happened a lot sooner than I thought. Garbrandt won the belt against Cruz, and then that fight just was the next one to be made. So really looking forward to that one. Let me know what you guys think. That's it for this one. I just wanted to talk about 3 new champions that have a bright future, lots of potential, and a lot of big fights for all 3 champions in their future, I believe. So I just wanted to put this video out there talking about 3 of my favorite fighters in the UFC, 3 new champions. That's it for this one. If you like the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MMABoxingTalk1. Peace.